India's transformation story has been phenomenal. Now, we have all seen data points that demonstrate this in our startup ecosystem today. When you look at it from any dimension, whether it's in the growth of number of users who have constantly increasing needs, of products that our startups have been developing every single day, or the amount of deep tech superiority that our startups have been demonstrating all over the world, which has inspired the level of confidence that you see in the funding ecosystem today. The growth in India has been truly unstoppable. We have with us today two founders who have brought incredible energy into the startup ecosystem by delivering on the promise of unstoppable India in completely two different fields by taking on different routes. I'm Kumar Raghavan, head of startups business at AWS India. And today it's my privilege to host Priyanka Gill, co founder, the Good Glam Group, and founder and CEO, PopXO Lixo, and Sandeep Nailwal, co founder of Polygon. Welcome, Priyanka and Sandeep.
Hello, thanks for having me here.
Nice to be here.
Now, each of you took a different path to growth. So let me start with you, Sandeep. Web 3.0 today a number of areas, from NFTs to cryptos to broader areas such as the metaverse. But equally, this is also very relevant for enterprises. For example, if an organization is trying to build trust in their supply chain using track and trace, that's a big use case as well. Polygon is obviously looking to address customers across all of these areas. Now, when you look at this diverse set of customers and needs, how do you structurally plan for growth? And how do you address these varying different needs of your customers? So, do you have specific advice for founders who have a similarly diverse set of customers and how they plan for growth?
Yeah, so uh, I would say that in the case of Web3, it's slightly different than the traditional world. That the kind of customers, the kind of applications that are coming up, the kind of use cases that are coming up are completely unprecedented. And the way Web3 fundamentally as a technology works, many people still don't realize, who are not into it, that it's actually much more than a technology. It's more of a sociological revolution, kind of thing, socio-economic kind of revolution kind of thing. The way human beings interact with each other, the way these institutions or companies can be built in a community owned way and things like that. So there, a lot of design patterns in this sense, like, are very very different. And How do you cater to die separate, die separate use cases and applications, also differs from the from which layer you are playing at. If you are playing at, let's say, at an infrastructure level, like for example, Polygon, you can think of it as a Intel Inside thing, right? So it's a general computing platform, or AWS. So AWS generally cannot differentiate between, let's say, consumer facing social media application versus a e-commerce application, all that. For everything, for them, everything is computation, and they would want to have those on their platform. Similarly, it's for us also at Polygon. So we don't really differentiate customers from the from the industry point of view. Although in our go to market, we might, like, when we structure our teams, we might divide them into the sector specific, because when they are talking to these application builders, they need to have good context. But that's pretty much about it. Once it comes to the technology, once a particular person is building or team is building on Polygon, then after that, once they are on Polygon, once they're sold on Polygon, they're building on Polygon, everything else is the same. It's just only at the go to market, go to market stage. um, but if you are a middleware who's building, let's say, a gaming middleware, right? So then your segregation of your customers would be very different, because then you are catering to one or two niche segments. So that's what, like, I would say, depend, my suggestion would be to be very clear which layer you are playing at, and once you are clear, then see which is what kind of segregation and go to market plans work for you the better.
No, thank you for that, Sandeep. And it's really exciting to hear you describe it as a big socio-economic revolution. It truly is. And I think the other part that you gave as very sage advice is to look at it from a very foundational element. I think you're building all the right building blocks so that it's universally applicable for audiences across customer segments. That's fantastic to hear. Turning to you, Priyanka, I mean, MyGlam has taken a very different route to growth. You've been laser focused on finding the brands that are truly addressing the needs of the millennial women in this country. So, what has been your thesis for growth? And if you can also give advice for founders who want to take a similar path that you have taken. So, are there pitfalls to watch out for and are there lessons to be mindful of?
Hey, hi. Thanks, Kumar, and hi, Sandeep. It's always wonderful to listen to you speak. So, at the Good Glam Group, we are taking an ecosystem approach to a very, very large industry, right? So, the beauty and personal care industry has been there forever, and there have been lots and lots of legacy players who have been kind of, building large businesses on it. But they've been doing it in the traditional and legacy way, if I will. At the Good Glam Group, we take the approach of content creators and commerce, which basically means we want to use the power of content, use the power of creators to open up this gigantic funnel of users and then introduce them to our own beauty and personal care brands that we own, right? Traditionally, this market was looking to marketing dollars to acquire users, right? So basically, imagine that you were a beauty or a personal care brand and you wanted, or you were DTC, you wanted to build digital first. So you'd kind of get your supply chain in order, you'd get your product and brand in order, and then you'd basically go to kind of the digital media market and pay the marketing dollars to get our customers to you. At the Good Glam Group, we believe in kind of creating an ecosystem that we own. So we start with content platforms like PopXo, Scoop, Pop, Miss Malini, Baby Chakra. These are all content platforms that we own. With that, we have 150 million users, right, which are at the top of our funnel. And then we look at the on the creator side, you have all our creator platforms that reach 1.5 million users under the Good Creator Company, right? And they actually become the top of the funnel for our users. We give them great content, we give them lots and lots of engagement points. And through that, we drive them to the beauty and personal care brands that you own, like MyGlam, Baby Chakra again, the products, Mom's Co, Sirona, Organic Harvest, right? So this is looking at the entire beauty and personal care market in a very different way, building it like an ecosystem. And to Sandeep's point, we really believe in democratizing kind of the internet in a way that the power should be with the user, right? Like if you've seen what's happened in kind of the social media age, all of us have been giant click farms for the large companies, right? So all of us would keep clicking, liking, sharing, commenting, and we'd get some emotional, psychological benefit, arguably, from that. But the value attribution or the value growth would be for the owners of those platforms, right? The user got no real tangible benefit from all the billions of actions that we've been taking. We really believe at the Good Glam Group that value needs to be given back to or needs to be shared with the user as well, which is why we've created a common loyalty program that sits across all our content creator and brand platforms, the Good Points loyalty program. And that's really kind of playing on the principles of blockchain, kind of really trying to tokenize user behavior and find ways of attributing value back to the user as well, which is why I think it's such an exciting moment in time for us to be building businesses in the age of Web3, because there are lots and lots of conversion points that exist. And as business owners, it's our job to actually find those conversion points to bring true value back to our consumers and our users.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear, Priyanka. I think the way you're addressing all parts of the chain there, I think it's quite unique and it's phenomenal, particularly how you're taking care of not just the users, but also the creators and making sure that everyone's getting their true worth for all that they are creating and consuming. Uh, that's truly something. And the other thing that you mentioned, just the volume of users that you mentioned, 150 million users, that's phenomenal. I think that would be the envy of a lot of e-commerce companies as well.
Yeah,
So
and
that
we are acquiring 300,000 users month on month and organically through the power of content, right? Which would probably make us one of the largest acquirers of users in any given month, among the top, if you will. And to do that as a DTC beauty and personal care brands company, I think is for us it's quite a moment of pride.
I couldn't agree more. That's something that's truly worth being proud of. Now, clearly, this is a fantastic growth path and unique trajectory that you have taken. Now, let me take a common issue that all of us face in this industry, which is that of tech and the skills gap. Now, a big challenge in the startup ecosystem today is around hiring and retaining talent. Now, the lack of the tech skills or the shortage of the tech skills, I should say, dominates this narrative. But I think the shortage of skills spans across functions. Now, for you, Priyanka, in a phase where you're constantly growing, and you said you're at the forefront of technology as well, not just around the business drivers. So, how do you plan for talent? How do you plan for the kind of growth that you're having, and yet ensure that there are no skills gap in all that you want to build?
Look, I think organization design is actually that that critical factor that determines the success or failure of an enterprise, right? And it's one of those things that we as founders don't end up paying attention to at the right time. And that's true for all of us because you grow, 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 grow. At some point, you hope the organization basically catches up with scale that you're at. And I think that is the moment when we collectively are taking a pause, and everyone should take a pause to really understand that what is my organization design, and am I kind of set up in the right way to allow for the scale and growth that we are kind of planning for in the future. So that's a huge point of concern, tension, and strategy that all of us should be looking at as businesses, right? So at the Good Glam Group, of course, kind of we are at that unique position where we've acquired over 10 companies in the past year and a bit, right? And along with those 10 companies come teams, and they come founders and founders who've been CEOs of their companies, and all of us are partnering together to build out the Good Glam Group. And aggregating all of that is, you can imagine, it's a very, very interesting puzzle, right? And we've been having, touchwood, we've been having good success with that as well. And then add to that the hyper growth that we're driving right now. So our recruitment team is literally working overtime to kind of keep up with the demands of the businesses. And as you said, it is really, really hard because there's a huge talent war happening. For that in the tech space, for sure, there's a huge talent war happening, but it's happening across all other kind of divisions of the company as well. I think for us, it's about making sure that our vision and our dream for the company is very crystal clear. We are able to articulate that to all our partners that we'd like to work with, or we'd like them to work with us as we go and try and recruit them, and really then give them meaningful work to do, which is what they really want. They really want to make a huge difference, right? You just don't want to be a cog in a machine. You want to make a huge difference, and then make sure that they also are getting the value that they deserve for kind of helping us build out the business as well. So again, as I said, organization design is a big thing. We're looking at it very, very carefully. We're trying to be as strategic about it as we are about all other things, and really trying to make sure our message is clear. We are talking to the right partners that we'd like to work with, and they get the mission. They want to drive the mission, and once they do so, they actually get real value out of it as well. So it's not a very kind of clear answer, but it's something that we do think about a lot. And as you said, it's a huge challenge, especially given the heat with which the Indian ecosystem and the Indian market is growing right now. All of us are kind of going after the same top people out there. It's a lot of fun, to be honest, but it's challenging, so to speak.
No, I think when I look at it from outside in at what you're going through, I think it's a very exciting phase where you have such an amalgamation of talent coming across these diverse brands that you have been bringing together. I think that in itself must be bringing such a great blend of talent together, and everyone gets to learn from each other. That must be a big motivational factor for the employees in the first place. But the other, I think you are far more clear on what it would take, even in a growth phase like this. I think being true to your vision and having your employees aligned to that is probably a great strategy that helps build longevity in the employees' growth and careers aspiration as well. So that's great to hear. Thank you for that. Now, turning to you, Sandeep, I mean, you built a tech stack that, as you described just now, is quite foundational to the world of Web 3.0. And you just described Polygon as being like the AWS of Web 3.0, which is quite flattering to us. Thank you for that. Now, when you're on a path where you're constantly delivering innovation as you do, especially with your tech stack, how do you deal with the skills that you need? And are there key strategies that's worked for you and that you think is better adopted for an organization like Polygon?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that it depends on the strategies. I am generally I not a very big fan of this of the word strategy, right? Because at the end, like, it's the most abused word in the business word, I would say that, so I mean, at the end, somebody has to, I have a very raw management style, like, my this thing is like, get sh- get stuff done, so and like, especially from the stage where we, in the last 1 year, the kind of exponential growth curve that we saw, um, you know we we barely had any time to really think about it and do strategy and all that stuff. Like, we were all go 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 go. And I think that, I mean, there are two schools of thoughts on that. Like, one way is that you would want to be well structured to actually and have all those processes and those batteries in place, and then go for the growth. And that could be true for markets which that exist, like, I mean, which is kind of human nature, like, let's say, cosmetics and some of the other things, women health, and a lot of other, like, e-commerce. There, I think these things, this kind of situation might work, where you want to have, once you have found the product market fit, you want to have all the growth batteries before firing all cylinders. And I'm not sure, I have not seen that personally. I have, I feel, I'm not sure how those things work, because anytime you do a preparation, the moment you achieve the scale or the magic point, I tell that to my team, when that magic point comes, you can never really plan for that kind of scale. Like, magic point means when you're working, at a particular growth acceleration, you're working, and you reach a particular threshold point, beyond which even you don't know what kind of inflows are going to come. And then you go into that acceleration, and then you again stabilize there, and then you plan for the for that particular stage, what so for us, basically, my instructions to my team was that we will not sacrifice growth for processes. If, let's say, few things are in chaos, let it be in chaos. We iterate on them while on the growth, but I will not sacrifice on the growth. So, we kind of kept going up, going up, going up. But now we reached at a place where the growth rate was so high that now I need to take some things in place, set up some processes, customer success, and all those kind of things that we do in the journey. But I think this is a much better position, instead of I stopping or curbing my growth at, let's say, level 10, instead of now, let's say, where we are at level 100 or level 1000, and then waiting for it. Where, what if market doesn't wait? Because this might be true for markets which are very new, right? Because there, the initial trajectory is going to be really, really fast. And if you lose important time in preparing for it, while not cashing in on the growth, or the momentum that you have, it might be detrimental, because you are then exposing yourself to the variables for this fast changing industry. But for the stable industries, stable consumer segments, maybe you want to have all the processes, because once the consumer experience is bad, it's very hard to win them back, right? So it might be dependent on it. And again, I would say that if you have to see which segment you are playing on. If you are playing in segment, let's say, NFTs, right, where it is such a new market, and every day a star is born in that in those wordings, right? So you have to chase the growth and the numbers, before, instead of sacrificing that growth with, let's say, preparation. I would say this recently happened in my team. Actually, my team was, in one of the meetings I went, and they were saying, no, 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 this, we are not set up for this. We will not do this and all that. I mean, not do 100 people. Let's say we'll only do 10, 20. And I had a very, kind of strong to and fro with my team. My team is very empowered. Like, I mean, I keep telling them that I don't want yes men in our team, right? So, we had a very strong argument, but there, I think this was the point, that the team, like the new professionals that are coming in, they want to be prepared before going to the next stage of growth. And I'm like, I don't want to lose on this growth. Like, initially, if it is chaos, have it. and you have money, maybe hire a parallel team which does this in a structured way, but have a, unstructured team which kind of keeps going after and keeps getting the client. So I hope that makes sense. I said a lot of things in uh,
Oh, thank you. Thank you for sharing those lessons, Sandeep. That's totally breathtaking to see how you're setting aside some of the conventional wisdom and charting a path of your own and not being bound by the confines of a strategy, especially when you're in a growth phase. I think that's an important lesson for all of us. It's often easy to forget. Even in at Amazon, one of the things that we pride ourselves is in thinking of it as a day one culture. We say it's day one every single day. So you start from that perspective. So you can't be bound by a fixed strategy when you're in that stage of growth. So thank you for that lesson. And the other point which you mentioned on also the magic point, I think, yeah, you can never prepare for that substantial growth and then be ready for it. So you got to always be having a mindset where you assume that that's going to happen and then plan for that or not plan for that, as the case may be.
yeah.
So on that note, Sandeep, I mean, from your perspective, obviously you have seen variety of cases when it comes to Web 3.0. So perhaps if you could pick two that was truly challenging for your team that you solved out there, and that's something we can all learn from. It would be great for us to hear.
Yeah. So, like one of the most, kind of very hard fought battles for us has been that we when we started, like in India, globally anyways, nobody was investing that much in crypto, and then especially when we started at that point in time, even though the companies are set up outside, but the founders were three Indians, and then we had like a big beer market in 2018 where nobody was willing to invest any money in Polygon, and then we somehow did all those things, like kept doing the good work, and kept our focus on the uh, on the developer ecosystem. Like today, a lot of people will tell you that Polygon played a very big role in building the Web3 developer ecosystem in India. But when we were doing it, it was really scary, because we, let's say, would have $50,000 in our bank account, and we were still spending $5,000, $10,000 on hackathons at times. And thinking from that point of view, even I thought that, am I crazy in doing this, because I need to also have my runway. What if, like, the next investors we are trying to chase, they both back out and things like that? So but I think in the retrospect, fo- being focused on the fundamental and the foundational stuff helped us in a way. And we did in what we did is that, even at that point in time, all our competitors, like, while we had 500k in total, the fundraise before we went on, let's say, an IEO on Binance Launchpad and things like that. Our other competitors had like $25 million fundraise, $30 million in fundraise, and things like that. And before that, one or two projects had tried grants system, right? So they were giving big grants like 400k, 500k, because you can't really build a company in that. And when we had 500k and we had to initially, let's say, bootstrap our developer ecosystem, so we spent a lot of money on hackathons, as maybe comparable to them, because they were also spending on hackathons $10,000, 20,000, so we could match it, right? So also think of a war not in terms of a big war, but in terms of small battles. So if you see this hackathon battle, there, even though they have $30 million and we have 500k in our bank account, but this battle, the overall scope, you can't spend more than $20,000 on this, right? So in this battle, we and them are equally matched. We should not think that we are smaller than them, if you see this battle in a microcosm, right? So that was one thing where we had these kind of guerrilla warfare kind of systems in small wars, battles that we were fighting, right? And then what we started doing is, everybody, like, when we even spoke to some investors and all that, we said that we are going to do the grant programs and things like that. Every investor was like, no, 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 this doesn't work, CEOs doesn't work and all that, it will not work for you. But we thought that, first, we were from India, so kind of opportunity and adversity was that everybody was advising us. Even my internal team, other co-founders, they thought that we should not project ourselves as an Indian startup or things like that. Even the company is outside based and all that. But I said that in like think of like we should actually think of India as our superpower, right? Because we have these millions of developers here. What if we cultivate that ecosystem here instead of going after the culture or these teams where they are going after, let's say, for US and south, the Bay Area and things like that. So we put a lot of efforts. I put a lot of efforts in building the culture in Bangalore, Gurgaon, and doing these developer ecosystem. And we started giving grants of $2,000. Compare that to $4,000. Like any US VC will tell you that 4,000, like $2,000, nobody can build a company in that. But what we were doing is, and this constitute to the second part, that the like all these US companies which had like big VCs helping them and all that, they went after the top tier accounts, right? So you get the top two applications building on them, and then everybody follows that. Oh, these guys are going there, let me also build on that platform. What we said is, this is not available for us. Top tier people are not going to talk to us. What we did is, we went after tier 2, tier 3, and the hackathon level guys, and we gave them $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 attention from our community and things like that. And when these, like a lot of these $2,000 grantee guys, many of them did not build their companies, but they ended up joining other startups, right, as developer, as marketeers and all that. And they knew, like Matic, right, at that point in time. And they would like, hey, why don't we build on Matic? This is works fine and all that. So we kind of kept capturing this tier 2, tier 3, where there was almost no competition for us, with even those 5,000, $10,000 grants, and providing them close support, providing them a very strong partnership support. And then what started happening is that a lot of people started coming to us from the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Then tier 2 people saw that, oh, a lot of people are doing building their stuff on Matic. Then tier 2 started coming. When tier 2 started coming, it put pressure on tier 1 also.
No, that's great, Sandeep. I think you didn't say it in as many words, but what was very inspiring for me is the level of self-belief. And I think a corollary to that was to think so big that you didn't let anything like finance constrain you when you were thinking so big. I think they are great lessons for us. And Priyanka, I think you're no slouch when it comes to Web 3.0 yourself. You've been prolific in applying experiments and getting things out there using the technologies underlying Web 3.0, whether it's decentralization or blockchain. So could you describe a couple of the areas that have worked for you and any of the experiments that you're trying, especially in the areas of NFTs and metaverse as well?
See, honestly, it's. I remember starting discussion about blockchain Web 3.0 very, very. I mean, for us, uh, early on, right? Because we were just basically kind of the Good Glam Group founded, and the loyalty program was something that I was very passionate about because I really thought that something has to wrap this whole thing together. You have like makeup brands and skincare brands and personal care brands, and you have digital media companies and influencer companies. What is going to kind of tie this whole thing together? The one thing that tied all of us together was the user base. All of us were going after the same user base and trying to grow that and getting them to do different things. Read an article, watch a video, buy a lipstick, like an influencer's story or whatever, right? So it's the same user base. We were trying to get them to do like different actions. That was the commonality that we had at the Good Glam Group. And then the second order discussion became, okay, we have the commonality is the users. What else can tie us together? That's when the Good Points loyalty program that I referred to kind of came up. And that also because I'm personally investing in a whole bunch of projects in blockchain and crypto, and one of yours was SubDAOs as well, Sandeep, IGG as well, right? So I was anyway kind of listening to a lot of chatter and discussions happening, and this entire tokenization is this really kind of key fundamental concept that I feel is going to really drive the world that's going to come now, right? And this idea of tokenizing behaviors and tokenizing value, that's a big thing that we're looking at the Good Glam Group. So that's one part that our teams are working on right now. And the other is kind of really kind of making sure that the supply chain everywhere else where there's a factor of trust to be built, how can we kind of make sure that's happening in a very, very secure fashion? And the securest fashion is to actually, of course, build it on the blockchain and build in different processes that allow for that as well. So at the Good Glam Group, we are actually looking at this extremely carefully. They're all very, very early experiments in the space. But the largest opportunity that we have is actually looking at our creator universe, right? We have 1.5 million creators in India who are aligned with the Good Creator Company. And there, of course, I mean, from an NFT perspective, and even if there's a future metaverse that's coming on, even from that perspective, there's a lot of churn that's sitting within our ecosystem, right? So it's 3 billion impressions that we see every 3.5 billion impressions every month, 150 million users. So there's a lot of churn that we have within the system. And as and when we start entering these spaces, I think there's a lot of fun that we can have.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's so exciting to hear that it's already become so mainstream, and not many already realize that how mainstream it's become. And I think it's even more exciting to think of the potential that it has ahead just by hearing all that you described. But look, this was a fantastic masterclass, at least for me, Sandeep and Priyanka. Thank you so much for sharing your time, knowledge, and experience with us. I'm sure the audience has learned as much as I have, if not more, from this experience. So thank you once again for this.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Thank you.